Welcome back to our channel. Today we bring you some news. Harry confronts Meghan after Kevin Cosner exposed his wife's shocking secret. Someone said that Meghan Markle is linked to the most toxic scandal in the history of the modern royal family by a single statement that was so devastating that it was yelled not in the halls of Parliament but from the sunny hills of California. There was no secret rumor or tabloid leak that led to the rumored link between her and the dangerous world of Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew. This connection was made because she was so near to the world of radiation. Kevin Cosner, a Hollywood legend whose opinions carry a lot of weight because of his background and common sense, made a decision that was not only calm but also well thought out. Reports say that this one speech has broken a fragile peace across the Atlantic. Therefore, putting two different royal crises into one story is unacceptable. Before we continue, please kindly subscribe. We are on a journey to reach 1,000 subscribers in less than 2 weeks, and we're counting on you. Like, comment, and hit on the notification bell. Prince Harry is reported to be in shock and questioning the very foundations of his new existence. This makes a terrible question hang in the air. May this be the last irreversible blow that permanently separates the Sussexes from the crown. A king's judgment in Hollywood. How Kevin Costner's words gave a royal ending. The line that was drawn in Montecito before the shocking charge. There was a little but important act of social rejection. The event was held in Santa Barbara, a bastion of rarefied American power. In this place, wealth is passed down from one generation to the next. Power is gained, and privacy is the most precious thing. A door was firmly and publicly shut here, in the beautifully manicured paradise that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle chose as their safe refuge and starting point. Kevin Costner, a big name in Hollywood's past, was in charge of the gate. He is a person who represents an institution that was built up over decades of hard work and cautious privacy, not a social media star who comes and goes. It was his yearly charity gathering, a big event that helped first responders' mental health. The occasion was a celebration of the fact that the cause sprang from service, not celebrity. An invitation is more than simply a ticket to a party. It means you are welcome and are part of a group that values substance above presentation. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex, who represented the UK, needed to have a place at the table for strategic reasons. It was never just a real estate deal. It was a statement of purpose about their plans to move to Montecito in 2020. As they tried to build a new empire of American power, they were doing something risky and unusual. They sought to break away from the British aristocracy's limits while still taking use of its mystery. The same people who shaped the world need to approve this new identity, which is a mix of humanitarian work, making media, and becoming a global celebrity. Costner, who lived next door and was a guy of undoubted integrity, was a key part of that time and place. If he had invited them, it would have shown that they were really part of the community. It would have shown that they were not just well-known people, but also respected members of the community. His refusal had the same effect as an earthquake in the tectonic plates. When asked about the guest list for his upcoming event, Costner did not try to avoid the topic by giving polite excuses like problems with his schedule or problems with logistics. People who were near to the conversation, on the other hand, said that the answer was full of disturbing reality. Meghan was not supposed to be there. After that, the explanation that followed next took away any pretense. He spoke of an unwanted personal approach, strong boundaries being crossed, and a firm decision to keep himself and his humanitarian aim apart from the controversy and scandal that he thought was becoming a part of certain relationships. He said that it was becoming harder to distinguish the problem from certain groups. This was a clear and simple message for a person who chooses his parts with the same care that he chooses his words. He was not making drama, he was stopping it. No one could figure out what the symbols meant. There is a complicated and unspoken law that controls how Montecito and the villages around it work. In this area, legacy concerns matter. Unlike in Los Angeles, where deals are made and broken all the time, people like Oprah Winfrey and Ellen DeGeneres, who have built their empires over the years and now want more respect than just being famous, call this area home. Titles and media campaigns alone cannot dismantle the social system they govern. People will only accept you if they think you are honest, are committed to the long term, and realize that privacy is a luxury that should be safeguarded rather than a commodity that should be sold. Costner's action provided a huge boost to that ethic. It was a public acknowledgement that the Sussex brand, which had a history of royal complaints and high-profile media fights, was judged to be too unstable and dangerous for a stable atmosphere. A veteran of the entertainment business took a quiet step that the British monarchy had been trying to do for years. He drew a clear and evident barrier. Access and acceptance are not the same thing, and certain doors may never open again once they are closed. This message echoed from the southern edge of the Pacific to Buckingham Palace. The unpleasant outcomes of a breakage. The public rejection was not an instantaneous collapse, but rather the peak of a slow and damaging building of tension. The cracks initially showed up during the same charity event a year earlier in 2023. Images and videos showed a scene of transatlantic power, Prince Harry, the King of the UK, standing next to Kevin Cosner, the US legend. But for those who were present, the air was thick, with an unsaid tension that was clear. The conversations were short and quite professional, and the smiles seemed like they had been planned. Later, body language experts would watch the footage and write down Costner's calm, yet seemingly distant posture. This was a big change from how friendly he usually is. They observed that the warmth never reached his eyes. Reports say that the transaction was less of a meeting of minds and more of a high-stakes commercial arrangement that happened behind the scenes. William Morris Endeavour WME was a powerful entertainment agency that represented both the Sussexes and Costner at the same time. Making synergistic moments happen amongst their most significant clients is one of the most crucial parts of the business plan for super agencies. It was thought that these two key attributes would show up together to provide an image of aristocratic rank. The chance to make millions of dollars in commissions and build a brand reinforced this anticipation. On the other hand, those who were close to the event afterward reported that Costner, who is very protective of his freedom, did not like the planned match. From a distance, his public image seemed polished, but up close, it looked brittle and contrived. Several stories say that he was under a lot of pressure from his agency to conform, which made him seem polished in public. It was not a friendship, it was a commercial relationship. The fracture grew into a big hole during the course of the following year. The only person who was there in 2024 was Royal Prince Harry. When people noticed that Meghan was missing, stories began to fly in the exclusive social circles that Santa Barbara is renowned for. The official explanation given to the public was that the person became unwell all of a sudden. This is a typical and often irrefutable reason for an explanation. In private, on the other hand, a different tale started to take shape. This was corroborated by later reports from royal analysts like Neil Shah. The main point of this story was a contradiction between expectations and status. These sources say that the Duchess wanted to have a bigger role in the event, especially by co-presenting and taking part in the stage presentation. She thought this was not a little thing, but rather a matter of recognition, which was in line with her standing as a world-famous person. The event organizers, who were said to be following Costner's direct orders the entire time, politely but firmly turned down the suggestion. The event was meant to recognize people who work in emergency medical services and the awardees were the main focus, not the famous speakers. After the door closed, Meghan is said to have decided not to go after all. Many people who are critical think this decision was a serious mistake. Instead, it was shown as a moment that showed a lack of connection to the spirit of the event, not as a power move. There was a discussion over who would be in the spotlight, which made the evening, which was supposed to be about service and sacrifice, less enjoyable. Also, it made it seem like personal branding was more important than the charity cause, which was a troubling question that raised troubling questions about priorities. A split that was both obvious and strategically harmful had formed as a consequence of the quiet strain that had been building up throughout 2023. The forced collaboration, the request that was turned down, and the obvious absence all pointed to a relationship that was falling apart because of the stress of having different aims and beliefs that were at odds with each other. It was a slow and painful process of coming apart that led to the last and definitive break. It starts as a whisper and ends as a judgment. People who know what is going on say that the sentence, "She made a move toward me," is deceptively simple. It does not include any accusations or anger, but it does have the definite coldness of a boundary being crossed. Nur says this, "It paints a picture of a crime, but it also shows an awkward circumstance when a business talk became too personal too soon." A little statement that indicated why he chose to remove himself became the key that unlocked years of murmurs and anonymous accounts that have trailed Meghan since she started acting. Since Meghan started acting, these anecdotes and reports have been following her. It took a story that had been going about for a long time in Hollywood gossip and made it into a real and widely held belief. People in business were talking about Meghan Markle's plans to become a duchess long before she really did. In Hollywood, having ambition is not a bad thing. In fact, it is necessary to stay in this business. People who want to be actors are expected to always network, impress casting directors, and take advantage of each chance they have to be seen and remembered. Some people have rightly said that the same behaviors, confidence, persistence, and strategic networking are commonly seen as signs of leadership and power when they are demonstrated by men. But the stories about Meghan that kept coming out were not about her ambition. They were about the way she did things that made certain people uncomfortable. Anonymous blogs and private conversations between people in the sector sometimes brought up exchanges that seemed too much like business transactions. Even though these meetings were nice and polite, it seemed like there was an unspoken expectation that they would happen. There was a blurring of personal and professional lines which made experienced veterans feel uneasy. They spoke about becoming acquainted with each other, which did not seem right. These claims persisted in the realm of unverified rumor, since it was impossible to prove them and easy to dismiss them as sexist cliches or professional jealousy. However, Meghan's marriage into the British royal family gave them a new and more difficult meaning. A business that is drawn to signs of power and prestige is especially vulnerable to the rapid societal change that comes with a royal title. Doors that used to need a lot of effort to open suddenly opened on their own. The Sussexes' record-breaking multi-million-dollar deal with WME was another element that made this situation even more intense. The payout for an agency like this depends on the results they get, and a big investment has to pay off. Because of this, there was a lot of pressure to set up important meetings and connections. This placed famous people like Costner in situations they may not have wanted to be in. From this point of view, Costner's answer goes from being a personal rejection to something else. One might witness an act of resistance against an industrial machine that was trying to make a relationship that did not feel real or earned as what it was. Even though he did it carefully, his decision to speak out gave a strong and respected voice to the worries that others had only ever stated in private. The restraint he showed was what made his words so strong. He did not say anything bad about anybody or make any personal attacks. He simply told his story, saying that he thought an approach was wrong and that he had to leave the circumstance. That honest and forthright attitude made things much worse. It gave proof that the tale that had been going about for a long time was true, making it impossible to dismiss it as just a rumor. It was a man who had nothing to gain and a reputation that he had fought hard to protect for the previous 40 years, who had quietly admitted that the trouble was real. This occurrence showed that people do not really grasp how power works in Hollywood. You cannot force others to revere you with a regal title, but it could get their attention. People like Kevin Cosner do not have inherited legacies. Instead, a legacy is built up over a lifetime of being consistent, dependable, and having defined limitations. It was a great lesson that you cannot just assume that you have influence. You have to earn it with each contact. His rejection was so gentle that it taught him a lot. The sentence that impacted the Wells integration. There are times when a few words may do more damage than a 1,000-page report. Kevin Costner is accused of doing precisely that by linking the Duchess of Sussex to the most poisonous scandal that has ever brought the modern monarchy to its knees. This was intended to have been done with only one scary connection. According to a statement that shocked spectators, he said that he had made a clear distinction between his reasons for staying away from Meghan and his desire to stay away from the world of Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein. In a statement, he is said to have shared this knowledge. We did not provide any evidence or make any specific claims. We did not require any. Putting two names and two very distinct royal crises into the same poisoned sentence made the blow stronger. It was a simple and terrible act of proximity. The Epstein story is the worst thing that has ever happened to the modern royal family. The story of the House of Windsor is one of terrible abuse, corrupt power, and institutional decay that has left a permanent stain on the family. Prince Andrew, the late Queen's second son, has been the most important person in this royal nightmare. His connection to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, his awful appearance on BBC News Night in 2019, and the subsequent multi-million-dollar legal settlement with complainant Virginia all led to his complete and ignominious exit from public life. He lost his military titles and royal patronages, and he was not authorized to represent the crown in any capacity. Even if he is now in exile, the monarchy has not been able to get away from the fact that he was involved, which will always be a sign of terrible judgment. Over the years, palace observers who know what they are talking about have noticed a strange pattern in the British press. When the public scrutiny of Prince Andrew's past reached a fever pitch, a fresh wave of unfavorable publications about Harry and Meghan would frequently appear out of nowhere. This would happen anytime the public's interest peaked. The effect was always the same, whether it was planned or just a lucky coincidence. The public's attention would be drawn elsewhere. Anger would be calmed, and the most dangerous scandal would recede from the front pages. This dynamic is what kept the idea that the Sussexes had become a useful lightning rod going. People used their arguments to take the political and social heat off the Duke of York, who was in a far more hazardous situation. The accusations say that Costner's statements severely ruined that fragile containment arrangement. By addressing both Andrew and Meghan in the same phrase, he made the two tales into one. The palace strategists' firewall, which they had fought so hard to keep in place, was utterly shattered. A moment later, the Queen's son, who had been exiled, was humiliated beyond his control. And the arranged son and his contentious wife were suddenly fused into a single issue that was hard to deal with. For years, unproven rumors that tried to link Meghan to the Epstein social circle have been going around in the most hidden corners of the internet. People have never believed these claims enough to talk about them in public. Costner's allegations, which came from a well-known insider in Hollywood, did not back up these concerns, but they did give them a frightening new life. They made even the most horrible guesses seem like they were based on information from someone inside. From a strategic point of view, this new revelation may be a catastrophe for King Charles III. Since he became king, his primary goal has been to project an image of stability, duty, and moral seriousness. After the tough latter years of his mother's reign, which were marked by family feuds and scandals, he has worked to get the ship back on course. Costner's statement drags the institution right back into the mess, making it seem like the new king has worked so hard to hide it. The castle is suddenly stuck in a trap that is too horrible to imagine. If Meghan were to deny it, it would bring back into the news the full sordid history of Prince Andrew's disgrace, which would be a big deal across the globe. Even still, staying quiet lets the toxic link keep growing and become more established in people's thoughts. The unspoken relationship becomes a subtle poison that weakens the crown's claim to the moral authority that is necessary for its own existence. It is not just another struggle for public relations. It is an assault on the monarchy's basic legitimacy, and it was made by one of Hollywood's most famous voices, not a rival or a revolutionary, a king under a lot of stress. Attacking from the front does not always work to take down besieged kingdoms. An unexpected voice hundreds of kilometers from the royal gates may be the most destructive shock. Sources indicate that the calm interview with Kevin Cosner in a California studio seemed like a huge shock to the royal family. People used to think that the Sussex issue only plagued the US. Along with going back to the monarchy, the situation had become one of the family's scandals that they would never be able to escape. Officials at the palace stated that the event verified their darkest fears about Meghan's judgment and the dangers of her connection to the royal brand. There are a lot of risks that come with the royal brand. It used to be unimaginable to get rid of royal titles, but it is now the main issue at the heart of this increasing problem. This constitutional erasure is not only symbolic, it is based on legal and historical precedents. The Titles Deprivation Act of 1917, which was enacted during World War I to take away the titles of British nobles who backed Germany, is the legal basis. The state may take away a title with the monarch's permission if the person who has it has done anything that has hurt the nation and the crown a lot. Not simply an old object that sits around collecting dust. King Charles kindly told Prince Andrew that he could no longer use his titles and honors. This shows that the king's patience is not unlimited. Reliable sources say that a complete dossier is being put together on the Duchess of Sussex. More and more proof is coming forth that Costner's testimony is highly important. His allegations are quite destructive since he is regarded as fair and not involved in politics. Palace strategists saw what he said as proof, not rumor. These claims say he acted inappropriately in a personal way and pertain to the Epstein case. It is calm and authoritative, which makes it impossible to say no or throw it away as tabloid trash. Because of this, King Charles has to choose between his duties as a dad and his duties as a king, which is quite painful. Some people close to the king have said that he is upset about how his relationship with his younger son has changed. He is also the sworn protector of an ancient institution that must survive before he does. The Sussexes have been publicly critical of him for years in interviews, films, and a tell-all book. He has run out of patience. Costner may be the final thing that pushes him to make a decision he has been putting off for a long time. Prince William, who will take over for him, is said to be more level-headed about the situation. He wants the monarchy to be stable for a long time, which is his greatest goal as a future king. He says that the incessant arguing in California is not a family drama, but a danger to the institution. It is not cruel to William to separate cleanly and permanently. It is required for preservation, but constitutional experts say that this kind of approach might be risky. If the Sussexes lost their titles, it would take a petition to Parliament, which would start a political controversy and a media circus throughout the world. This would make the process a long and public struggle, which is not good for a monarchy that has to stay calm. Even so, Earth is not stable. Hundreds of thousands of people in the UK have joined petitions to get rid of the Sussex titles. A once severe action is now ordinary. Kevin Costner's statements may be the most important thing, converting private royal worry into public action. The monarchy would be admitting defeat if they were to amputate. But in the harsh math of life, it could be necessary to preserve the crown. This would put a stop to the Sussexes' regal story for good. This fight, which started as a disagreement in Hollywood, has turned into a fight for survival that is compelling the House of Windsor to confront its long-hidden demons. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts in the comments box.